wet? I'm on the porch.
You're on the porch.
The porch, by the washing machine.
The front of the porch?
The washing machine, by the washing machine.
Ah, careful you don't fall through. That's rotted out.
No, not upstairs, downstairs.
It's been rotted out for 25 years, Barrett.
I understand. You got to be careful, no?
Anyway, so I did a little bit of my homework. I discussed it this morning with the fellows on the morning call, as they call it. There is a time when there is something to saying Nishta Shabbos Geret. The Mishnah brings a Bach in this simon when it discusses all these things about talking about weekday activities. So he brings a Bach that says that if you're gonna come to a big loss, then you're allowed to discuss business things on Shabbos. I mean, the case that he says is if it's a really powerful guy that you owe money to, and the last day to pay it up is on Shabbos. So then you're allowed to, you're even allowed to pay it up on Shabbos, right? Obviously, assuming there's no muksa involved.
That's not a din of pekuach nefesh. Back then, if you owed a guy money, he would kill you.
No, he wasn't coming. As far as I know, he was not coming from the. It wasn't a pekuach nefesh issue.
Oh, okay.
He was coming more from the area of that's for a hefsed meruba. You don't have to keep this derabbanan, right? So, but on that, the Eishel Avram says that you should say Nishta Shabbos Geret. So in order to make something recognizable, so on that you're supposed to say Nishta Shabbos Geret. To which the Paiskim say that any time that you have a heter to talk about a weekday activity, so you should say Nishta Shabbos Geret. That doesn't mean that every time you want to discuss a weekday thing, you just say Nishta Shabbos Geret, and therefore you have carte blanche to do whatever you want. That's obviously we take it and run with it, but that's basically what it is. Okay, so on the bottom of Kuf Nun Amud Beis, Aval Machshichen, right? There you have it. It's around 10 lines up in the bottom. So the Mishnah says that you're allowed to make yourself go to the techum, to the edge of the techum, in order to be available right after Shabbos. Okay, so the problem is when you make Havdalah. The Gemara says, and even though if you didn't make Havdalah, you're allowed to go do this work. It's also for a person to do his whatever he needs to do, chafetza meaning his own things, before he makes Havdalah. And if you're going to say, no, so he got in Ma'ariv and he said, Atachin Antanu. Yeah, somebody who makes Havdalah when he davens still needs to make Havdalah on the kais. And if you say, okay, so he did make Havdalah on the kais, is there a kais to make Havdalah in a field? So must be he didn't make Havdalah on the kais. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Where was the Havdalah made? So the Gemara answers, we're talking about in between. That's literally means in between the wine pressing, but it means when there is, it's in between the wine seasons, and therefore there is wine readily available in the fields. And the Marava, they said this, and they said this, what we did was we said, and then we do whatever we need to do. Right, he said and then he cut his wood, right? So that's where we get this halacha from, that all you say is and then you're allowed to do malacha. You don't, if you said Atachin Antanu in Shemona Esrei, you don't have to say Baruch Hamadu Mikdash Shachol, right? When the people that drive to shul, whatever it is, if you said Atachin Antanu, so then you're good to go. Now, let's say you heard Havdalah before you daven Ma'ariv, right? Yeah, you hear sometimes, you hear Havdalah, somebody makes Havdalah, early person making Havdalah. So yes, you still should say Atachin Antanu and Shemona Esrei, right? Also, if you can theoretically make Havdalah before Shabbos is over, Havdalah doesn't have to be after Shabbos. The only reason that it has to be is because you can't light a fire, right? But theoretically, if you had a fire lit from before Shabbos, then you'd be able to make Havdalah even from Plag Mincha. For those Plag Meir people, right? You also allowed to make Havdalah at that point too. It's better not to, but Lamaisa you're allowed to. Yeah, fine. So that's Kallah Omer Abba Shaul Kol Shani. So right, Abba Shaul ends off the Mishnah seemingly saying something extra.
What's the Marasayan involved? Somebody sees you making Havdalah, it's an hour before Shabbos ends?
You want to say that it is Marasayan if you do that?
I don't know anyone who has ever done that, but I'm just saying, if I see my neighbor making Havdalah an hour and a half before Shabbos ends, what is going through my mind?
So you're gonna probably say, "Boy, I need to sign up with that guy's rabbi."
Exactly. What rabbi is he using?
Right. Whose hesher does he eat at? Right.
I'm saying exactly. I'm doing the wrong thing.
Right. No, but see, but Ramosha actually, in that whole Marasayan that we discussed last week, Ramosha actually has a tshuva where he says Marasayan is only something where right of the time the thing that's done is usher. Meaning going into a restaurant. So if right at the time you go into a restaurant to eat treif, so just because you're going in there to get yourself a soda, right, it's a problem. But if it's just people's misunderstanding, then it's not a problem. That's that famous Jew Ramosha about somebody made a macha on him that he went after candlelighting, he went in a car to yeshiva. Right? He went in a car, and Ramosha says there's nothing wrong with that. You have until Shkia. But he said, but because you're making a macha, I'm going to be makabel another not to go in the car anymore. But he said, but Ramosha in that tshuva says that's if it's something that's perfectly mutter, there's no such thing as marasayim.
So good. So Anakai has in his book upstairs. He made a gadol adah, 80-year-old gadol adah, walk the next 226 Shabbos.
Right. Correct.
Right. That's a great thing to go upstairs with.
Yeah, I know. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Right. But the point is that you can't have maras ayin unless it's something that people are fairly assuming that you are doing something wrong. And since this is something that nobody would ever notice, then it would be okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So Abba Shaul said at the end of the Mishnah that the rule is anything that you could talk about on Shabbos, so then you're allowed to do the techum. You're allowed to go walk to the edge of the techum for. So Abba Shaul, aheya. What's Abba Shaul going on? If he's going on the Reisha, right? You're not allowed to go to the techum in order to rent workers or to bring your fruits. Right? Then why is he saying a lashon that he says kol shani zaka b'mirasa, whatever I'm zoicha, whatever I'm allowed to say, I'm allowed to be machshir. It should be kol she'eni zaka b'mirasa, any rishai v'chashichase mibayle. It should be what I'm not allowed to talk about. Then I'm not allowed to. Right? If he's going on the negative part of the Mishnah, then he should be saying it as a negative. Whatever. Again, the Mishnah says that you're not allowed to go rent workers. You're not allowed to walk to the edge of the techum to rent workers right after Shabbos. Right? So if he's going on the negative, she should have said, whatever I'm not allowed to talk about, I'm not allowed to be machshir on the techum. So must be going on the sefer. Ella sefer koy. Ava machshiru lishmaru maybe peris biyadei. Right? But that the sefer says that you are allowed to walk to the edge of the techum in order to bring fruits. So then it should be high kol shani zaka b'chashichasei v'shayane b'mirasi mibayli. It should have switched it. It should say whatever I'm allowed to walk to the edge of the techum that I'm allowed to talk about that also on Shabbos. Meaning, if I'm allowed to walk at the edge of the techum to get my fruits after Shabbos, so then I'm allowed to talk about getting my fruits after Shabbos. So Gemara says, it's really going on the sefer. Abba Shaul, aha koi, he's going on this. Damar Rav Yehuda, Damar Shmuel, mutal adam loymer lechaveru shmar li peres she betchumech, v'ani eshmar lach peres she betchumi. Right? You have a friend who lives outside in one techum, and you live in a different techum. So what you could do is you could tell him, on Shabbos, you can go tell him, I don't know exactly how you're telling this, I guess maybe you're yelling it to him, and you're telling him, you watch my Paris, I'll watch your Paris. And then Abba Shaul said to the Tanakama, Milai Maidis, the mutter Adam Laim Lachaver, Shmarli Paris Shabbatchumech, Ani Eshmalach Paris Shabbatchumi. Are you not, don't you agree that I'm allowed to ask my friend to watch my fruit, and he could ask me to watch his? And say, Kol shani zaka b'mirasi v'shani l'hafshalav. Whatever I'm allowed to talk about, I'm allowed to wait there for the night. right? So therefore, he's saying that you are allowed to do this shtick by asking somebody else to watch your fruit and you'll watch his. Right? It seems like the Tanna Kamma would not agree to that. So okay, so now Kallah suyemai, because Abishol says klal. Whenever the Mishnah says the word klal, it's coming to say something. It's coming to include something. Kallah lasuyemai, lasuye, so it's coming to include. You're not allowed to be mashik on the techum to bring them a hema. But if you're standing, if the animal's standing outside the techum, kairala riba, you're allowed to call your animal and it's allowed to come in to your techum, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Even though the animal's muksa, but you're allowed to talk to your animal to get it to move. You wouldn't be allowed to push the animal, but you're allowed to talk to it. So klal omer abashol, kol shani zakab amirasa, rishani la'afshalov, and right, so whatever I'm allowed to talk about, I'm allowed to go on the techum. Machshichin lefakechel iske Kallah val iske ameis lavi lo'arim v'tachrichin. Right, we had this yesterday. We'll have it again in the next Mishna, that you're allowed to walk to the edge of the techum to take care of making a wedding and for burial, and to bring Aaron Tachrichin. And you could tell a person, meaning you can go to somebody and say, go to this certain place. Tell him on Shabbos, go to this certain place. If you don't find it in this place, then go bring it from another place. If you don't have it, if you can't find it for 100, then go find it for 200. Right? So basically what we're saying is that for this Dvar Mitzvah, it's pretty much not Shabbos. You're allowed to say whatever it is that you need to say. Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to tell the guy to do anything. Go here, go there, go here, go there. But as long, okay, go tell somebody else. As long as you don't mention a measurement. As long as you mention, you don't a measurement. You don't measure a monetary. You don't mention a monetary amount, right? So what some of the Rishonim learn from this Gemara about you asking somebody else in the techum to watch your peiros, and they're asking you, is they learn out from this that you're allowed to ask another yid to do malacha for you on Shabbos if it's not Shabbos for you. Meaning, let's say I made early Shabbos. Now I need to get something done. I forgot to turn on my oven or something. So memela, I'm allowed to ask if it's something mutter for somebody else. Then you're allowed to ask it. Meaning, from here, right? I'm allowed to tell you. Let's say you're in your techum, but my field is in your techum. So I'm allowed to tell you to go watch my peiros, even though I'm not allowed to go there because it's out of my techum, right? And he's allowed to ask me to watch his peiros, even though he's not allowed to go there, right? So basically, we're doing something on behalf of somebody else. So we learn from that you're allowed to watch things, you're allowed to do things malach on behalf of somebody else on Shabbos. And the most practical case of that is making early Shabbos. Fine. Zog the Mishna. Yeah, that was a little bit technical. So Zog the Mishna. You're allowed to go to the edge of the techum in order for marriage, to make a wedding, and for levaya things. Nochri. Now these next few lines are extremely important. Nochri shehevi chalilin b'Shabbos, a guy who brings the flutes that they use on Shabbos, lo yispad ben Yisrael. A Yisrael cannot use them to make a spedin, right? They play the music part of Levias. So you're not allowed to do that. Why not? Unless it came from someplace within the techum. Okay? Also right? So let's finish the Mishnah first, and we'll get back to it. Also let's say they made an aron, they made a casket, and they dug a cave. But you cover by Yisrael, then the Yisrael is allowed to be buried in there, even though it could very well be that the guy built this aron on behalf of the yid, or he dug this hole on behalf of the yid. Then b'shvil Yisrael, you cover by lamas. But if you know that it was done on behalf of the yid, then you're not allowed to. It's also forever. Okay, so this is an interesting halacha. There's multiple things in this Mishnah. First one is that if a guy does work on behalf of a Yisrael, then it's asur. And not only is it asur, but it's asur forever. Okay? Meaning you would never be able to benefit from it ever. So if a guy dug a hole dug a hole for the kfura, or he built an aron, there's no way you're ever allowed to benefit from it because it was done be'isser on Shabbos. Things that were done be'isser on Shabbos are not allowed. You're not allowed to benefit from it forever. Okay. But okay, so we'll see if I can think more with that. What some more about that? So talk to Gemara. My makom karev. What does it mean makom karev? Rav Amar makom karev mamish. Rav says it has to mamish be makom karev. Right? Meaning you have to know for sure that it's within walking distance, right? Meaning it has to be within the techum. You have to know 100% it's within the techum. Yeah. Shmuel Amar Chashin Shem Chutz L'Chaim Alonu. No, Shmuel is more strict. You have to be afraid that it was outside the city, right? Outside the walls, right? Yeah, no, Shmuel. No, I'm sorry. The other Rab, Shmuel is more Meko. Shmuel is more Meko. He's saying that even if you don't have to know for sure, as long as there's a chashina, right? That's what's confusing. Normally, right? Rashi discusses this. What does the normal word chashina mean? Chashina means you're concerned. Chashina is normally a term used to be strict. Rashi says no. Chashina here means to be more meko. He's saying we're concerned. We're saying that maybe he was within the. Well, again, teaching as concerned is not the right way. You have to say that we think that it is a possibility that he was in the techum and therefore it's okay. I mean, you don't have to know for sure. Yeah. Now. Okay. Yeah. We'll wait till we get to the Gemara. Fine. Techum masnizak say the Shmuel to Katani also Aron b'chaver lekever yikaver b'Yisrael. So we have the diuk like Shmuel that it says that if you make an aron and you dig a hole, so a yid can be buried in there. I'm a mistake or shari. So you see, we don't know. As long as you don't know about it, then you're allowed to have him buried there. Hachanami mistake or shari. So too here, when we don't know if he brought these flutes, misafix, and it's going to be mutter. So that's a raya to Shmuel. Tani Kav say the Rav. We have a brayso that says like Rav. Here she saw Nachum Darenba. You have a city. We had this. I don't know how many blood ago. We had this a while ago. A city that has Yidden and Goyim living in there. And you have a merchatz that was being used for washing on Shabbos. If it's Roiv Goyim, so le'erev roichet b'miyad. Since you're allowed, since it's mostly Goyim. So you could assume that it was being heated up for Goyim. Therefore, you're allowed to wash in there immediately after Shabbos. You don't have to wait. In Rav Yisrael, I'm sorry. If it's Rav Yisrael, then you have to give it what we call Kadesh Yasu. You have to wait enough time that it could have been heated up from scratch after Shabbos. Mechzal. Let's say it's 50% Yid and 50% Goyim. Then Ad Kadesh until you also have to wait. Rav Yehuda says if there's a small bathhouse, if it's somebody who's powerful, right? Rashi says it's Adam Choshev Sholem, a powerful person, and it's a small bathhouse, then it's allowed. You're allowed to use it right away. My Roshus, what does it mean, Roshus? It's like Brother Yehuda. Let's say the guy is so chashuv that he has 10 people who heat up 10 different bottles, 10 different jugs of water at the same time, in a small bathhouse, then it's mutter to do right away because clearly they're going to be doing it for him and not for you. Fine. Okay, so let's say they dug an aron and they dug an aron. They built an aron and they dug a grave. Why don't you wait? Why don't you wait until Kadesh Yasu? Right? Meaning, why can't you just wait? We just got finished saying that if they heated up the bathhouse on behalf of the Yid, all you have to do is wait for long enough for it to get heated. So why don't we just say, let's say it takes an hour to build a casket, so an hour after Shabbos you'll be able to use it. So it's talking about where it was in a, what do you call it, in a main street. right? I'm sorry. I think no, this is, I mixed it up. This is going on. Yeah, I'm sorry. I learned it was going on the safe. It's going on the ratio. Again, there were two cases in the Mishnah. I apologize. There were two cases in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that if you see that they made an aron and they dug a caver, then the Yisrael can be buried in there. But if it's done for Yisrael, then it's you're never allowed to do it. So this one is going on the first case where they just they found an aron. You found an aron by a goyim, and you found a grave that was freshly dug, and you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to be kover Yisrael. So Gemara says, why don't you have to wait? Kedei sheyasu. Meaning the Gemara is asking, why don't you have to be machmer? Why are you allowed to use it right away? So Ula says it's talking about Ba'imid Basrachi, it's talking about where the grave is on the street. Yidden didn't get buried right there on the street. They got buried in more proper places. So therefore, it's very clear that it was buried on behalf of a guy. I mean, it was dug on behalf of the guy. And therefore, you're allowed to use it right away because you're just using something that belongs to the guy. So where it says Tinach Kever, that helps with Kever. Aron Ma'ikal, what about an Aron? Right? How are you going to know for sure if that Aron wasn't specially built for a Yid, in which case you're not allowed to use it. So I know it's talking about where that Aron is laying on top of the grave by the street. So since it's laying on top of the grave by the street, so therefore it's clearly the Aron is also made for the guy, and therefore you don't have to wait Kadesh Yasu. Now, getting back to the last case in the Mishnah, is that if they dug a grave for a Yid, or if they built a casket for a Yid, you're not allowed to be buried in it forever. Right? So Rashi says that means the way you understand that is forever. Right? Tosfos disagrees. The Tosfos Nachri Shehevi disagrees. Yeah, so because he says, why don't you just wait Kadesh Yasu? I'm sorry, no, that's talking about the Chalilim. The Chalilim is disagreeing with Rashi. Rashi learns the Chalilim you're never allowed. If they bring the flutes, you're never allowed to use the flutes. And Rashi and Taisa says no, the flutes it's Kadesh Yasu. It's not just using it for not forever. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So let's see. I'm sorry for that confusion. So Zok the Mishnah. Yeah. You're allowed to do anything that a mace needs. You can smear it. Meaning you rub oil on it, and you could wash the mace. As long as you don't move any aver, right? Because the mace is muksa. Right. So you're allowed to do any sort of tahara stuff, but you can't move it. You are allowed to slip the pillow out from under it, and put him onto the on the sand, right? And now we're on to base, so that he won't the mace won't decay so much, right? So therefore you're allowed to slip it out. Let's say the mace is down on top of a pillow, so you're allowed to slip out the pillow and let the mace go onto the ground. You're allowed to tie the jaw, right? You're not allowed to tie it so that it's going to move up and close. That you're not allowed to do, because it's muksa. What you're doing is you're tying the jaw so that it doesn't open anymore, because that's a bizayin, right? Fine. And then another case having nothing to do with the mace. You have a beam that broke. You can lean it on a bench, on the edge of a bed. Now you're not allowed to push the beam up. You're just not allowed to, so that it shouldn't break anymore. Meaning, basically, you're allowed to take something that's muksa, and you're allowed to put something under it so that it doesn't move any more than it already moved. You're not allowed to push it that way, but you're allowed to hold it up. Okay, so like that he went after it, Rameir, to the base of Merchutz, and he wanted to wash the floor of the Merchutz, right? So, he says you're not allowed to wash the floor of the Merchutz, right? Because you're not allowed to wash floors. So he wanted to at least smear the floor with oil. ain't something you're not allowed to, right? So what do you see? That you're not allowed to smear oil on things that are muksa, right? The rocks are muksa, so how come you're allowed to smear oil on the mace? So we say karka, but karka michlva. No, ground one type of karka with another type of karka that's going to get mixed up. Meaning, stones is no problem of smoothing out. That's right. There's no problem smoothing out stones, right? But if you're going to allow you to oil stones, you might end up putting oil on dirt. And if you're going to put oil on dirt, we know where that's going to lead to. That's going to lead to you smoothing out the ground. Mace bekarka, but a mace with karka is not going to get mixed up. So therefore, you're allowed to smear oil on a mace. You're not allowed to smear oil on the karka. So Kallah suyemai. What does it mean? What is the kol? Right? You're allowed to do everything that a mace needs. You're allowed to bring kalim that are cool, which Rashi says means glass and metal. And you put it on the mace's stomach so that it's not going to blow up. The stomach shouldn't blow up. Like this, you put something cold on it and it won't blow up. What you do is you can stop up any of the openings of any of the body openings of the mace, so that there's no air that'll go into it, and then memela, air goes in, so air is not going to go out, and it's going to blow up the body of the mace. Shlomo Melech said in his chachma, right, when he's referring to a mace as the stomach getting larger, blowing up. Before the rope that's made out of silver breaks. That's referring to the spine, right? So it could break. The Torah's gulas azov, and the gulas, how do you say gulas? The bowl, the golden bowl. That's the amma. That's the aver, right? Fine. The tishaber kad al mavua, and the pitcher is going to be broken by where the water comes out. Zeh hakeres. That's talking about the stomach, right? So basically, what he's saying is that these things. This is what happens to somebody when they dies. So the stomach's going to blow up, right? And then the galgal, how do you call it? A galgal is a wheel, right? That gets broken into the bar. Zeh perish. That is perish. That's the excrement, right? That's the waste. If there's a risi perish apnechem, perish chagechem, right? And it says that he's going to take the waste. It's going to go on your face, and perish chagechem, and it's going to go. The waste is going to go on your yom tovim. This is a very heavy mussar right here. This is referring to the people that their whole day, instead of learning Torah, they're always busy with making the day into Yom Tovim, enjoying themselves. They're just busy jumping from one enjoyment to the next enjoyment, and that's going to end up blowing up on them. Right? All that waste is going to end up blowing up on them. Amar Rav Levi, Amar Rav Papi, Amar Rav Yeshua, la'achar shloisha yomim, after 3 days of the mace, the stomach breaks and it falls on his face by Merisloi, and it tells him, Tol Mashanasat to be, take whatever you put into me. Right? Meaning, so basically what the body is doing, the way I understand this is that, the body's got a neshama and it's got the physical. So you have to feed the physical, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the neshama. So once the body dies, so now that's the separation of the neshama and the guf. So basically, all the extra food, the neshama is basically saying, get all this stuff out of here. It's not necessary anymore. Yeah? Okay. Fine. So it's the Mishna. Now, it's a little bit sober tonight's subject. Yeah? You're not allowed to close the eyes of the nifter on Shabbos, and not even during the week, in Yitzias Nefesh, with if it's about to die. If somebody touches or closes the eyes of a person when he's about to die, then he's considered murdering him. right? So, because the thing is, if you touch the mace, you might end up making the death a few seconds earlier, and we know every second of a Jew's life counts. So therefore, if you cause the death to go earlier, that is like killing it. Fine. So
we learn all the halachas from Geisis of this.
This is the main thing that we learned it from. Yeah, and
I'm saying because we don't hold just eyes. We hold everything, right?
Correct. Yeah. You mean here it's only saying eyes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's really, it's any part of the body. When somebody's about to die, you're not allowed to touch the body because we're afraid that touch will make the person die faster. But you're right, you're not allowed to touch at all. Yeah, it comes up in the hospital because you don't know exactly, especially nowadays we have all sorts of machines. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to gauge when somebody's a geisis. You know what I mean? So suddenly they want to come in and change the bed linen. If the person has a din of a geisis, you can't change the linen. You're moving the person, and the person is gonna die. Yeah. But I would say the story that happened with my father, but I'll leave that to parrots when he was being nifted. All right, but whatever. It's a little Anyways, I mean, I don't mind.
A little more alcohol.
Whatever. That's what happens. It's very difficult to tell when a person is a geisis or not. So anyways, the Torah about if you close his eyes when the nefesh is being nifter, then you're shayfich dam, you're a murderer. Mashal and ner shekava by leches. It's mashal to a ner that's about to go out. Right? If you put your finger on it, let's say the it's starting to flicker, the candle's starting to flicker, but it'll stay on for another 15, 20 seconds. And then you come and put your finger on it. I mean, you might burn yourself, but so you put something on it, and that's going to put it out right away. So the same thing with something that's being nifted. If you want to make sure, if you want to close the eyes of a person, right, and meaning the person died with the eyes open, you want to make them close. I would love to know who figured this out. Okay, so you blow some wine into the nose of the mace, and then you take oil and put it between the eyes, the eyelashes, and then you hold onto the two thumb. How do you call it? The two big toes, and then they will close by themselves. Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
Why are you not just closing the eyes? Why do you need to resort to this? Just close the eyes.
Close the eyes. I hear. I don't know. I didn't think about that when I was learning the Gemara. It's a good question. Unless maybe it's Shabbos and you don't want to close the eyes. That's what I think.
Maybe it's because he doesn't know if he's dead yet.
It's Shabbos. So here, all you're doing. What?
Maybe he doesn't know.
You still can't touch. No, but you still can't touch.
Right. So here you do it this way.
If you don't know, you're not blowing the wine into the nose if you don't know if the person's dead or not.
Right. You can't. Right. No, you can't. You wouldn't be able to put oil on the eyes either. I think it must be. I think that's what it is. It's Shabbos, and therefore you want to be able to close the eyes, and you don't want to be able to move it. That's what I think, but I don't know. It could be I'm wrong. But So Tanya, right? We had a reference to this Gemara before. A tinek ben yoimai, a baby that's 1 day old, mechal and Shabbos for him. David Melech Yisrael mace. David Melech Yisrael is dead. Ain't mechal and Shabbos. You're not mechal Shabbos. Tinek ben yoimai mechal and Shabbos. Right? Why do you mechal Shabbos for a tinek that's day old? Amratayra chalal love Shabbos echad. Kidesh yishma Shabbos is harbe. Be mechalo one Shabbos in order that he should live many, many more Shabbos. Right? That's the rule. That's what we know from that you're supposed to be mechal Shabbos for somebody to live. So because it's a pasha d'svara. I mean, besides with v'chai bohem, but why not? It's kedai to be mechal one Shabbos, then he'll do a lot of Shabbos, which is why you get into why you're not allowed to. You try and tell somebody why you're not allowed to save a guy on Shabbos. right? So the answer is because he's not going to be Mekadesh. He's not going to keep any more Shabbos. It's actually be Mechal Shabbos for a good, right? David Melech Yisrael mace ein Mechal and Kivan Shemeis Adam Batel Min HaMitzvah. Since a person is mace, he's Batel from mitzvahs. V'hainu Dam Rabbi Yochanan v'meisim Chashi, or meisim are free. Kivan Shemeis Adam Nase Chashi Min HaMitzvah. Since a person is free, right? Since he's dead, he becomes free of mitzvahs, right? Which is the famous story with the Gra, that the Gra was crying when he was about to be nifter. And he said, I'm not crying because I'm scared of being nifter or anything like that. He said, I'm no longer going to be able to accumulate any more mitzvahs. That's it. Once your life is over here in this world, you're done accumulating mitzvahs. And he said, even wearing tzitzis, right, is enough. Even just doing that is a mitzvah. That's without doing anything. Fine. The Tanya of Shimon Elazar.
We say to do an Avera to stop somebody from doing many Averas, we say we don't do, because my Avera doesn't override the other person's Avera.
Correct.
So
correct.
Here the theory is changed. My Avera to have somebody keep more Shabbosas, that's fine.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Matches away from a group of kids that are going to smoke on Shabbos. So now there's 20 kids that are all going to take fire and light a fire. I take away those matches, which is muksa to me. I was told I'm not supposed to, and if they light the fire, so be it. That's my avera override theirs.
Correct.
Wait,
So
what
are you saying? So
what Avera are you talking about? Where's the Avera here?
What do you mean? Here?
There's no Avera.
There's no Avera to take away the matches.
The Gemara says here, you can be Machal Shabbos to save a baby.
This is just an expression. It's 100% a mitzvah. It's not an Avera. It's an expression. Shabbos into Chol.
No, what he's asking is that it is an Avera to, why is this different? Right? Why is this different?
Different than what? It's not Halitani now. This isn't Halitani now. This is simply saving a life.
You're muted, Sviakov.
I had to switch phones. This phone was dying.
It's not Halitani now.
No, but meaning normally you're not allowed to do an Avera to get somebody else to do an Avera. To save somebody else. Maybe Chil Shabbos.
That's not an Avera in this case.
Well, that's correct. So, but it's a Bikuach Nefesh, right? But so, yeah. So, right. So that's what he's saying. But Lamaisa.
Landau. This goes back to the whole Landau solo thing. Are you being over an Avera? You're not being over an Avera because you're saving.
No Avera here. I still don't understand why you.
No. Even without.
Doctor, you're a Hatzalah guy starting up an engine.
We learned you're allowed to do it.
Of a car, and you're driving a car on Shabbos. You're doing an Avera. But it says you can do it to save the person's life. So Peretz wants to know, why can't he take the matches from 4 Bachrim who are going to light up cigarettes? It's the same case. It's the exact same case.
Absolutely.
Right. So he's saying one is no. So what the doctor's saying, I think, doctor, you're saying is that one is Chil Shabbos, and one is Pikuach Nefesh, right?
100%. There was a case where somebody went around with a rifle, tried to find a bacher who was missing during Israeli riots. And the bacher turned out to be in a jail cell. So he went to Rav Shlomo Zalman. He said, do I have to do any kind of tshuva for this? He said, it wasn't a Avera, it's Hatzalas Nefesh. Any person who's trying to save a life, Hatzalah, is not doing a Avera. That's the most olive base of Pikuach Nefesh. I can't imagine anybody.
So you're saying that Peretz can take away the matches. That's what you're saying.
Why? But nobody's saying no, because that's not Pikuach Nefesh. That's what he's saying, right? That's not Pikuach Nefesh.
No, they're
going to be Mechal Shabbos.
That's not Pikuach Nefesh.
This is really simple, okay? The most important.
What is going on?
Number 2 is Pikuach Nefesh. Number 3 is everything else. That's not me. That's the halacha. Number 1, you can't do Gimel Averos. Number 2 is you must save a life, and including a baby's life is measured in seconds. And number 3 is you can't be mechal any of the lavim. This isn't a Shabbos.
Parents is going to be over the Issa Muksa, which is a Issa Derabanan. And if these boys light cigarettes, the Michayev Misa Midaraisa.
No, right. So that meaning you're asking like, why is it that's not that? So they're going to be. Why isn't it pikuach nefesh to stop them? Because one is a physical, one is a spiritual, and one is a physical, right? That would be
no, physically they'll be Chayev Misa. We don't have Bezdin now, but they're Chayev Misa. These 4 Bakrim. Parents saved their lives. We all have to give parents a look. He saved their lives. No.
That's called halitenina. If the person is logically competent, it's called halitenina. If the person is psychiatrically well, it may be different. This is not open to debate.
Meaning, what he's saying is that this is them volunteering.
What are you, Joe Biden? I can't debate you.
No, what he's saying is that they're bringing it on to themselves. Mashenke in a chayla who's in a sakana, right? That's what you're saying, Doctor.
100%.
Right there, he's bringing it on to himself. Right, it's a whole schmooze. It's a whole schmooze. But
I mean, you don't need to say that either. You could say even on Peretz's case, if you see someone doing bayer on Shabbos, can you stop? Can you do an isser to stop them from doing bayer?
Vicky, make it romantic. They're smoking cigarettes. They're lighting up joints. Don't hack me up. They're pulling out grapes from oranges. Big deal.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, whatever it is, that's a whole nother subject. Okay, well, as the Hashem, we get to Sanhedrin and all this, we'll get it. Right, the long ways off.
We can save it for the Siyum.
There you go. Maybe Taka. Fine. Okay, so that's one. Tanya, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, yeah, Tinaik ben Yaimai Chai ain't tzarich l'shamim and achol and akvarim. Right now we go the opposite way. And Tinaik, who's alive for one day, right? You don't have to watch him from rodents. Aval oig melech habashan mace, but if oig melech habashan, who's a giant guy, tzarich l'shamim and achol and akvarim, you need to watch him from these things. Shenema marachim v'chikam yeh kol zman she'adam chai. Anytime a person's living, it goes on breathe. Even shemeis bought from me, but since he died, he's no longer any fear. Meaning, it sounds like the reason why animals, what do you call it, are scary to us is because we don't behave ourselves. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so that's what it is. So again, a 1-day-old, we're Machal Shabbos for, and we don't have to protect them from animals because there's fear. And David HaMelech, we would not be able to save once he's dead. We're not helping out once he's dead. And Oig Melech HaBashim, we would not be able to save either. Not saving from animals. Okay. Fine. Fine. We know that a lion will not attack 2 people. Right? So the Gemara says, but we do see that he attacks. So who could Rami Bar Abba? Ain't Chaya Shalet is Rodam Hachu. Didn't like the behemoth. Guys, can you go out, please? Right? Chaya does not rule over a person like we just said. A Chaya does until the person himself acts like a behemoth. People become like behemoths, and that's when they become the animals rule over them. So basically, again, if we behave ourselves, then there would be the animals would not be, we wouldn't have to be scared of animals. So also, a person is not allowed to sleep in a house at night. Whoever sleeps in a house at night, this lilis is some sort of shade called lilis is going to get you, right? Which is just very interesting because he says he doesn't mean a house, a bedroom. Living in a bedroom with the door locked is considered by Sufidi, and you shouldn't sleep there. Now we say nowadays we have mezuzahs, we have lights on and stuff like that, and that Mamela takes care of this. But what's interesting from there is that the Mishnah says that if you lock your room, then you consider like your own house. In which case, if somebody gets stuck with having a yichud, an issue yichud with somebody with another leverage, as long as both of them lock their doors, then the male each one considered a separate house, and it's not yichud. It's a major kula, right? That people are not aware of.
That's what the chesed department, right?
Right. You mean by the hospital?
Yeah, they make outdoor locks on the inside rooms.
Right.
They
Right.
make real locks.
Right. So there's no there's no yichud issue. Fine. The Tanya of Shimon Lazar, I say ad sha'ata moitzer u'motzi loch. Right. Do I say ad sha'ata moitzer. Make sure you do, and this is referring to tzedakah, as we'll see, and you may do it while you can still find somebody. And then while you still have money to give out, meaning if you have tzedakah money, go find somebody to give it before you can't find anybody, and make sure when you give out the tzedakah, when you still have the money, before you lose it, right? So when it's still in your head. Shlomo also said, remember your young days, right? Remember them until it comes to the bad days. These are the days of being old. And you're going to have years that you're going to say, you're going to come to a certain age where you're going to say, I have nothing, there's no reason for me to be alive. These are the days of Mashiach. Those are the days of Mashiach when there's going to be no schutz and no chayvah. So he's obviously learning that when Mashiach comes, there's no more brera, there's no more nisyanis, everything is smooth. Upliga the Shmuel, and he disagrees with Shmuel. He disagrees with Shmuel, because Shmuel holds, and we had Shmuel already before, Shmuel holds that there is no difference between nowadays and Mashiach's times. It's all going to be the same, except we're going to be free from foreign nations ruling over us. Poor people will not stop from being in the land. There's always going to be poor people. Yeah. A person should always ask for pity with this midah. Right? Because if it doesn't come to you, then your son is going to become poor. Meaning, and if your grandson is not gonna, if your son is not gonna become poor, then your grandson is going to become poor. It's for this type of thing. It's a wheel that goes around and around. Which you ask anybody in economics, that's the way economics works, right? You have 1 year, you one tkufa, you have everybody gets wealthy. Then those guys make investments, they lose all their money. Who snaps up all the cheap real estate? Let's say it's real estate or stocks. The people that have very little money, then they make the money, and then it goes around and around. So basically what the Gemara is saying is that somebody in your family is going to be poor. So don't ever stop davening for it. Right? So we know that a young Talmud Chacham is never going to become poor. Oh, the Gemara says, but we do see that he's poor. So the Gemara answers, even if he does become poor, he's not going to have to knock on door to door, from door to door, which I don't understand, because we see many Talmidei Chachamim that do have to knock on doors. Yes, we'll just go a couple more lines. Rafia said to his wife, when an ani comes, Ripta, give him bread right away. So that your sons will also, when they're going to be poor, they'll also be fed right away. Amrlay, Melad Kalaitis Lo, are you cursing your kids that they're going to be poor? Amrlah, Krok, it's a pasuk. It says, Beglala Davar Azeh. It's on very short. It's the Gal that's caused on the world. Yeah? And then Tani Rabbi Galil Rabbi Aimer, but Nasan L'cha Rachamim Rachamecha V'Rebbecha. Right? You should give rachamim, and you should have a lot of rachamim. Kallah merachim al abriyos. Whoever has pity on Hashem's creations, merachim alav in Shemayim, they're going to have pity on him in Shemayim. Because she'enim merachim al abriyos, Ein Rachman Ela B'Shemayim. Whoever does not have Rachmanis, they're not going to have Rachmanis in Shemayim. Which Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Tzedakah paskins like this. That, and it's an interesting thing because normally we're supposed to do mitzvahs because we're supposed to do them having nothing to do with reward. But here it's very clear that the way you treat poor people, that's the way eventually you will be treated. Meaning, and the way you treat people, b'chlal. If you have pity on people, then your people are going to end up having pity on you. And if not, then that's going to be, it's not going to be like that. Okay, I guess we'll stop here because then the next one goes back to the dead people. Fine. All right. Have a good one. Yeah.
I got asked a question today. I couldn't answer it. If you are growing vegetables in an aquaponics environment, meaning it's not in the ground, it's in a closed system, not in the ground, do you make adama or eighths on those?
Hydroponics. It's hydroponics.
Aquaponics, hydroponics, they're all the same concept.
Yeah, I thought you make shahakol.
You make shahakol on.
Most say that you make anything grown hydroponically. It's not in the ground. Most places can say you make shahakol. There are those that say make adama, but I think most say shahakol.
Really? And what about containers? Meaning they're not actually in the ground. Like you put it in a planter's pot, and then you put it in a planter's pot, and then you're using dirt and stuff, but it's not actually the ground. Would it be the same thing then?
What are you saying?
If you put it in like a planter's box, where it's not actually in the ground, but you use dirt, it's just not part.
That you would. No, then you would.
What would be the difference?
No, that because one is growing in dirt and one is not.
So?
One is not. What?
So what?
So that's it. Well, growing in dirt is Bara Priya Adama. Growing in air, in water is not.
Containers.
You can't say Bara Priya Adama, it's something that's growing in water.
So if I were to eat seaweed, let's say, you have those like Japanese seaweed snacks. I wouldn't make adama, or I mean I don't know. I'd make shahako on those.
On what?
On like seaweed.
Which the seaweed? I don't know what that is.
Oh.
What is it? Seaweed. It grows in the water.
It plants on the water. Water.
Yeah.
Watercress as well. Like certain other vegetables, they grow near the banks, but they grow, or algae even. People eat algae.
I don't know. I once looked into the seaweed, and I didn't come up with any. I don't know. I'm not sure what the bracha is, but that.
I think they say shahakal in general because that stuff it really just floats in the water.
What they on seaweed they say shahakal.
I thought that's what I heard one time because Costco sells the seaweed, like these seaweed snack packages.
Right.
With an OU. For some reason, I think the OU is supposed to say a shahakal.
That's weird.
You asked the OU about it?
Like 2 years ago. I do not trust my memory, but that's what I think they said.
But something like aquaponics or something like that, they have a grow medium, meaning like in the same idea that it grows in like a container pot, right? They have a grow medium. They might grow in like some rocks or something like that and hold water better, like a pond. So what would be the difference?
I don't know. Maybe it's not. Who says it's different?
Well, just because it says aquaponics doesn't mean they're not growing in a medium. They're not dropping it just in the water. The grow medium sits in a cup that drops in the water.
Oh, I just texted the bracha's texting thing, and he said bracha and seaweed is shahakal. No source. Well, the source is a Hebrew source, but bracha of seaweed is shahakal. Same thing with mushrooms,
I
right?
just looked it up. The OU website says shahakal also.
Interesting. All right, so I'll give the Louvre's sack then.
Yeah, not my psak, but that's what the.
Hydroponics for Maror and Pesach.
Oh, I don't know. What do they say? What do they say about that, doctor?
I'm asking.
I don't know.
They also
I know
find-
I know that. What?
They also say, which I don't know if I knew this or not. They also list mushrooms.
Mushrooms should also be shako.
Mushrooms grow on logs. They don't grow in dirt.
What? Okay.
Mushrooms are fungus.
The what?
I think they're a fungus.
Mushrooms grow in logs and other weird mediums. But
Yeah, but they grow from the air, right? We had it in Brooklyn. They grow from the air.
I mean, they have,
Aaron's why? You're in a blackout?
Yes, sir, I am.
Wow. How many hours already?
Since early this afternoon. Yeah,
That's crazy.
tell me about it.
Yeah. All right.
all righty. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Simon. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay.